station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
Five minutes after 9 o'clock, it's time for Veterans News, and Hank Whittier is back after being gone for a while.
I don't know where I've been, but I'm back.
Hey, Hank, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Everybody's doing well.
And how's your wife?
My wife is doing much better. You know, she had a couple of surgeries and doing well, and wanted to thank everybody for their kind thoughts and cards and all of that. And,
nice.
And if you really want to help, send money. You know,
I bet.
It's amazing what it can run up to.
Yeah.
And, you know, 2 different hospitals, all that good stuff. But anyway, with good care, and she's on the mend, so that's the good news. We have a busy show today because Dr. Knapp is here to talk about a subject that most people don't like to talk about, but we need to talk about. It's, some cancer and some of that's what he sees in the clinic, and that's what we deal with sometimes too, the aftermath. So we need to talk about it because knowledge is a treatment in and of itself, I think. So, but we do have some casualties, and Gary is going to talk about some folks who have passed. I think we got some police officers and firefighters.
Yes, sir. We have 2 firefighters. We have Lieutenant Randy Parker from the Macon-Bibb County Fire Department in Macon, Georgia. Lieutenant Parker was killed in the line of duty on February 11th. And we have Sergeant Kenneth M. Stanton from the Sandy Springs Fire Department in Pendleton, South Carolina, also killed in the line of duty on February the 15th, 2015. And as far as law enforcement goes, we have Police Officer Siegfried D.R. Dove Montera, and he was of the Guam Police Department on the island of Guam, and his end of watch was Saturday, February the 14th, and I believe, Hank, you have a local?
Well, we do. We have Arthur White. Excuse me for that. Arthur White died. Air Force veteran, 22 years, and worked for the post office, and kind of well known around town. We all kind of dealt with him, different things with the American Legion and other organizations. Good guy. And I guess it's an appropriate time to say today is the 70th anniversary of the landings on Iwo Jima. People forget because it's 70 years ago, but significant, 24,000 casualties, over 7,000 killed in 5 weeks. So, we ought to remember that and honor that. And I think that's it for the casualties, correct?
That's it, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of these folks.
Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
All right, Larry, thank you. And Gary is going to have, you got a couple of announcements about our good friends who sponsored the show?
Yes, I do. If this cold weather has killed some of your beautiful plants, you need to get down to Bob Wine's Camellia Garden and Nursery right away. They've been bringing us veterans news here for quite a while, and they've been keeping things blooming in Ocala since 1952. They're located at 2610 Southeast 38th Street in beautiful Ocala. When it comes to your landscaping needs, they have it all. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. Everything from small plants to large trees, mulch, fertilizer, the whole works, and they'll deliver if you need them to, and they'll even guarantee their trees. You can't beat a deal like that. And make sure you tell them you heard about them on WOCA radio here on the Veterans News Hour. Tell them you're a veteran, and you get a 10% discount to boot. And I don't know what you're driving, but if you're not driving a Ford, maybe you should be, because the Ocala Ford dealers serving Gainesville, Leesburg, the Villages, and Bellevue has some good sales going on. They've got some good vehicles. For more information, you can call Ford of Ocala at 352-732-4800, and they will also sell you a used car. They have a great line of service. They have great technicians there. They sell parts. They have hard-to-find parts you can't get at the parts stores, and they'll do a good job on repairing your Ford, and they probably even work on some other vehicles. And if you don't want to buy, you can also lease, and they have very special financing rates on leasing. So make sure you visit your Ocala Ford dealers. And also, I have one quick announcement here. The Cup of Irish is holding a St. Patrick's Day benefit for the Wounded Warrior Projects on March the 14th of this year. It'll be 12 noon. It'll start until it's over, and they're located at 3223 Southeast Maricamp Road in Ocala, Florida. For more information, call 352-694-0245. And that's all I got, Hank, other than don't forget about the stand down February 27th and February 28th. If you know a homeless or a needy veteran, make sure they get there, because we're going to have a lot of help for them.
Well, they're going to have a lot of help for those folks. But if you're a veteran who has some questions, because there'll be service officers there, the VA will be there, we'll be there, and a lot of other agencies will be there, Social Security. So if you're a veteran who either needs some help with clothing or other things, or would like to get you registered into the VA is one of our high priorities, and get you some housing, which is another priority. But if you have other questions related to your service or what your benefits are, you need to come down and talk to us. There'll be a lot of people there and a lot of agencies represented who will give you accurate information, not guesswork like you get some places. So we'll be there those 2 days from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. And looking forward to seeing you down there. If you just want to come by and have a cup of coffee with us, that's okay too. You can do that. And Cece, are you coming?
Yes.
Well, that's a reason for everybody to come down.
They can have a cup of coffee and help us carry some of that stuff in, Hank.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of, people have been very generous, and this will probably be the biggest stand down that we've done since we've done 4 or 5 of them, and I think this is the largest by far. So people have been very generous, and there's a lot of agencies participating, and the whole idea is to help veterans out. So that's what it's all about. We're there to help veterans, and that's what the 2 days are about. Listen, today, Dr. Knapp is here from the local clinic, the clinic director, and I mentioned what the subject is going to be, a couple of issues with cancer. So, Dr. Knapp, I'm going to let you kind of take off and run with it and introduce your good-looking guest over here. I think you probably lose them to, they're going to be media stars from that one.
Well, they're certainly not as good looking as you are, Hank. Well, I do want to actually put a plug in for the stand down next weekend on Friday and Saturday. And if you're a veteran out there that does not come to the VA, we want to enroll you in the VA clinic. And if you're enrolled in the VA clinic, we want to talk to you about your benefits. And part of the reason that we're going to discuss cancer today is that the VA actually has expanded a lot of programs. We do a lot of cancer screening at the clinic, and we want to discuss that. And there's a lot of new programs for cancer screening that we started to do, such as lung cancer screening. I'm going to discuss that myself. So let me introduce our panel for this exciting talk. We have Dr. Christina Thompson, who's been at the VA a number of years. She's one of our outstanding physicians. Dr. Torres Rodriguez, who's been on the radio before, he does women's health, and he has a long experience in women's health. And Cece Malera, a head nurse who's been on the radio constantly, and I'm sure you recognize her name. And she's going to talk about women's health today as well. So we're going to talk about 4 cancers that are probably the most common cancers we deal with. Colon cancer. Big issue with colon cancer is screening. We want to get everyone who needs screening screened. Second is prostate cancer, and as you know, over the age of 70 in this country, if you're in your 70s or 80s, there's about a 25 to 50% chance you'll get prostate cancer. Thirdly, lung cancer. I'm going to discuss that. And we've started doing some screening on that, and I'm going to discuss what is the indication in the age groups that we need to talk about.
Sorry, I'm just letting you know we're up against the first break. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then finally, one last thing, Cece will talk about women's health, and then we'll cut to a break.
All right, excellent. All right, we'll be right back with that in just a minute.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Mostly sunny today, windy and chilly with a high of 48 to 52. Clear and cold tonight with a wind diminishing, lows ranging from the mid-20s in some inland spots to about the freezing mark along the coast. Sunny tomorrow with a milder afternoon, high 53 to 57. For Saturday, sunshine, some clouds, and becoming warmer, the high 71 to 75. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
If you've been looking for just the right tree for your home, your yard, or your garden, then your search is over. You found it during the wonderful truckload tree sale at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens. Take my word for it, every tree in Bob's huge selection is reduced in price to sell right now. I'm talking citrus trees, shade trees, dozens of varieties, all the way up to Bob's famous super gigantic jumbos. Big 6 to 8 foot extra large trees start at just $49.99. They're available all the way up to the super gigantics that come delivered, planted, and guaranteed for one low price. While you're there, be sure to stroll the Camellia Gardens and feast your eyes on 5.5 acres of Florida's most beautiful blooming camellias. It's a free attraction you just won't forget. Check this week's ad for a complete list of all the savings right now at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens, Southeast 38th Street, Ocala. Open daily till 5, till 4 on Saturdays. Bob Wine's, locally grown, home-owned since 1952.
Join us on Saturday, March 7, 2015 for the second annual Habitat Strawberries Festival at the McPherson Government Complex. The goal of this festival is not only to provide a great time for families in Ocala, but to also raise funds to build a home for our family and our community and support Habitat for Humanity's mission to strengthen communities, build hope, and provide dignified housing solutions. Remember, Saturday, March 7, 2015 for the second annual Habitat Strawberries Festival at the McPherson Government Complex, which starts at 7 a.m. with breakfast.
All right, 17 minutes after 9 o'clock, let's return to Veterans News. Hank Whittier is here with Dr. Mark Knapp. Doctor, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
That's okay. Let's go on and talk about our first cancer, colorectal cancer, which we have huge screening programs in the clinic. And I'm going to ask Dr. Thompson, who's at risk for getting colon cancer and who do we need to screen?
Being that colon cancer is the third most common affecting men and women, and has an incidence of over 130,000 cases per year. The risk factors are those who are older than age 50, anyone with a history of inflammatory bowel disease, such as ulcerative colitis, anyone with a history of abnormal polyps, such as adenomatous polyps, a first-degree relative with colon cancer, a genetic condition referred to as familial adenomatous polyps, those who use tobacco. And one other area that is under investigation is the amount of dietary fat. Those who have a high diet in fat are at increased risk for getting adenomatous polyps, which then puts them at risk for the colon cancer.
So I just got a call the other day. My sister's age 58 and she has colon cancer. What does that do for my risk?
That does increase your risk because it is a first-degree relative. Absolutely.
Well, fortunately, I'm trying to get another colonoscopy, but yeah, I'm kind of concerned about that because that's pretty young, age 58. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of different screening in the clinic. What are the different strategies that we use to screen in the clinic?
Well, there's actually historically 5 different screenings. 2 that are no longer used are the rectal exam and the barium enema. And the reason why they're no longer recommended is because the yield is so low. We do still do occult blood testing, and we do flex SIGs if we need to, but the preferred test is the colonoscopy because that gives us a 95% chance of detecting the colon cancer.
Now, we've recently changed our fecal occult blood testing in the clinic. Is that more accurate and easier for the patients?
Yes, it is. Based on studies, they found that to be better. So that's why we switched. Or the process they used, the process they collected.
There are patients that really dislike doing the 3 cards. Remember the 3 cards we'd send you home with, and now it's only one card.
One test.
And or one tube. And it's more accurate. So in the past, the doctors were not thrilled about the sensitivity and specificity of the test. But if you come to the VA now, we switched about a year ago, didn't we?
Almost 2 years.
2 years ago. And so we do fecal occult blood testing. It's actually much more accurate. And I try to talk a lot of patients into getting their needed colonoscopy. And there's 2 issues that patients have with it. One, do they have to go to Gainesville for their screening colonoscopies, Dr. Torres?
Well, for screening and colonoscopies, we submit a consult in the clinic, and depending how the availability of the clinic in Gainesville, we can submit a consult here locally in Ocala as well. So, and also depending of the test, they have a screening program also in Gainesville that they can see the patient sooner for colorectal cancer screening.
So with the non-VA care expansion, which everybody's heard about on TV, and I think they're even talking about expanding non-VA care for mental health, a lot of our screening colonoscopies now are done in the city that you live in. So we've had a lot of veterans that didn't want to drive all the way to Gainesville. I would say that probably in my patient population, probably about half of them are being done right here in Ocala. So that really is a big benefit, isn't it?
It is. Well, it is because it's always been a deterrent for people to get the proper care by having to drive that distance. So again, what's happened in the last year or so has really helped a lot of veterans. How often should they? You're probably going to answer this anyway, but how often should they get colon screening?
Dr. Thompson, how often should you get a colonoscopy?
One thing I wanted to mention was you said screening colonoscopies can be done locally. I do know that Gainesville does like to do their diagnostic colonoscopies. So if you've had a history of an abnormal test, then they do like to see you in Gainesville to have that done.
Correct, right.
Phone call?
No, sir. When you talk, I'm just asking if you'll use the microphone.
Okay, well, he's hard.
I know. You need to kind of share it. Yeah.
The other complaint I get about colonoscopies is the prep. The prep is really hard, and I've had a number of colonoscopies, so I've been through the prep, and I feel the pain. Do you have any advice about that, Dr. Thompson?
The prep is definitely a hard one to get used to because it is involved. You do have to start the night before with a clear liquid diet, plus doing half of the prep that night, with doing the second half of the prep
The morning.
about 4 to 6 hours before your procedure. So it is involved. You definitely have to follow those directions.
And actually, getting your colonoscopy locally actually helps with that because then you don't have to have the loose stools and everything driving all the way up. What about, you were talking about some of the polyps. Some of the polyps are more serious than other polyps, and some polyps require a follow-up more frequently than others?
Yeah, there's 2 different types of polyps. Benign, which you'll hear a lot of people refer to as hyperplastic. Those are the small polyps. They account for about 50% of those polyps that are found on colonoscopies. There's also an inflammatory polyp, which is completely benign as well. And then you have the malignant polyp, or those with malignant potential. And those are the adenomatous polyps and the sessile adenomatous polyps. Sessile meaning the flat, small, easily missed polyps. And both of those does put you at risk for developing cancer if they are not removed at the time of colonoscopy.
So if I had a normal colonoscopy, when do I need a follow-up? And if I have adenomatous polyps, when would I need a follow-up?
Adenomatous polyps, they like to do it in 3 years. If you do have a first-degree relative that was diagnosed before the age of 60, then they recommend doing a follow-up colonoscopy for screening every 5 years. If it's a first-degree relative that was diagnosed after age 60 and your colonoscopy is fine, then they say every 10 years.
Right. And I can't tell you how many cancers all three of us have found after we've talked our veterans into getting their colonoscopy. So we really try to provide that service, Hank. And if someone doesn't want a colonoscopy, we'll sit and talk with them about, pre-cancers and colon cancers. Fortunately, most of the polyps that are found at colonoscopy are not cancer. They're precancers, and if you're a patient, you certainly want those precancers taken out by a quick colonoscopy as opposed to waiting for them to get so big you have to have major surgery.
We talk a little, and I'll talk to you about because you seem to be the expert. By the way, you've been there 10 years, Dr. Thompson, and I have to tell you, with your boss here, that of all the folks we hear about at our office, the veterans are very complimentary of you.
Thank you.
And they're, sometimes they're not of other doctors, but in your case, the veterans really like going to you. So whatever you've been doing for 10 years, keep on doing it. We appreciate that. He's too new to have a report card on him. And CC's loved by everybody, but that's good because we listen to that, and that's an indication of what's going on over there. So, but in terms of prevention, I've read some articles about aspirin being having a positive influence on even colon cancer. Is that correct, or is that a myth?
That is still under debate. Yes, there have been some studies that have shown that it has offered benefit, but then when they repeat the studies, it has not been conclusive. So we're not saying that, yes, it does offer a benefit because the jury is still out on that.
And the low-fat diet is
the low-fat diet. The low-fat diet has been linked to a decreased incidence of adenomatous polyps, and it's those adenomatous polyps that are pre-malignant.
Okay. Very good.
So it's not the regular polyps, it's the adenomatous polyps. Well, I have a real interesting topic to bring up on colon cancer, but I want to congratulate Dr. Thompson. I've known Hank, took me 3 years before he had anything nice to say about me, so congratulations.
I still haven't said anything nice about you.
What about, there was a big push a couple of years ago about, I'll ask Dr. Thompson this because she's been at the VA for many years, about virtual colonoscopies. It was in the news and the newspaper, on TV, that you didn't have to have a colonoscopy, but you could actually have what's called a virtual colonoscopy with a like a barium enema, but added pictures because of the high accuracy of our imaging studies. Where are we with that? And do you order any virtual colonoscopies?
We do have virtual colonoscopies available. It is considered pre-screening for those at average risk, not at high risk. And it has a yield of detecting polyps. If they're 5 to 6 millimeters, they detect the polyps about 88% of the time. If you have a polyp that's about 10 millimeters, which is of concern, it detects it about 94% of the time. Right. Now, given if you have the colonography done and it's normal, then you're fine as far as screening. If it turns out positive, then you have to go through the colonoscopy anyway, and that occurs in about a third of the cases.
Good. And actually, you still have to have some sort of prep.
And the prep is the same.
So to wrap up colon cancer, we plead with everyone that we'd like to get a colonoscopy, screening colonoscopy, if you're over the age of 50. If we just can't get you to get a colonoscopy, you don't have a driver or whatever, we do order our virtual colonoscopies at the VA. They have to be done at Gainesville, though. And they're done every 5 years, and they're a screening tool that's accepted by federal guidelines. And clearly, if you don't want to have one of those, we do the stool card testing, which is getting more and more and more accurate as that procedure is getting better. There's a stool card testing, my understanding, costs $500 for a stool card, which is not readily available anywhere. But one company does offer that, and it really detects the genome of cancers that are shed in the colon. As you can imagine, 5 years we'll all be doing that, but we're not quite doing that yet.
So the key is get tested, get tested, get screened. I mean, that's really the key. And I've known there's a number of people here in town. I won't mention them, and they're well-known folks who have colon cancer or had it, and have been 5 years out. So. Are you giving me that same gesture?
Just about, yeah. We got about half a minute. We need our next break. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and take your break.
All right, well, we'll be right back with Veterans News. Do you want phone calls? Doctor, do you want me to solicit phone calls?
For sure.
Okay. If you want to call during the course of the show, you are welcome to. It's a full hour show today, by the way, special show. Dr. Mark Knapp is here to answer your questions. The phone number is 622-9622. We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. People with peanut allergies should take note. There's a massive recall underway after traces of peanut are found in cumin spice.
Often used in Tex-Mex and Indian dishes. Since 2006, peanuts, shellfish, and other allergens are required by law to be listed on food packages if they're an ingredient. But the law is a little fuzzier when it comes to cross-contamination.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers. There's a superbug scare at UCLA Medical Center where nearly 180 patients may have been exposed to an antibiotic-resistant strain. 7 infected, 2 people died. The number of Americans seeking unemployment benefits fell sharply last week, and the rapper known as Vanilla Ice charged in South Florida with burglary, telling reporters on his way out of the police station.
I can't talk about all that right now. It's just out of proportion, and I wish you guys would focus on all the good things.
Police say he stole furniture and other items from a neighbor's home. Fox News, we report, you decide.
The last time your battery gave out, you were stuck on the side of the road showing the kids new and interesting ways to expand their vocabulary. So before that happens again, come into Napa and pick up a qualifying Napa battery and get a $10 prepaid Visa card by mail. $10 buys a lot of soap. And with the way your kids are talking now, you'll need it. Conquer the job with Napa Know-How. At participating Napa Auto Parts stores, offer expires 2/28/15.
What's the secret to great business trips? Choice Hotels, where you'll find everything a business traveler needs, like a generous rewards program. And right now, choose Choice twice for 2 separate trips and get a night at no price. Stay for business at Choice Hotels and book now at choicehotels.com. Great endings begin here. Free night based on an 8,000-point Choice Privileges Reward night at over 1,500 hotels. Valid 2/19/15 through 4/22/15. Requires registration and 2 separate qualifying stays. Other terms and conditions apply. Details at choicehotels.com.
Hi, my name is Dr. Erica Olstein with A Better You Healthcare Acupuncture and Eastern Medicine. As primary care physicians, we use acupuncture to treat back pain, arthritis, migraines, allergies, high blood pressure, thyroid disorders, hormone imbalances, stress, and more using all natural medical therapies. We treat the source of your problems, not just your symptoms. For more information, go to abetteryouhealthcare.com or call today to set up your appointment. 352-615-5566.
Guy Harvey Checking is now exclusively available at Gateway Bank. With Guy Harvey Checking, you will receive Gateway's premium checking account plus several other Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation features, including membership to the Guy Harvey Hammerhead Nation, free Guy Harvey t-shirt, and an exclusive Guy Harvey debit card. At Gateway Bank, we will make a $50 donation to the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation for every new account opened. This is just one more reason why people choose Gateway Bank. Sign up today for your exclusive Guy Harvey Checking account with Gateway. Details available at gatewaybankcfl.com, member FDIC.
Hi, Danny Warfel here. Get moving with Florida Credit Union's fast and easy loan approval process.
Let Florida Credit Union start up a new car loan for you today. No more waiting, hassles, or stop signs. You can even apply online. With a strong financial team behind you, you can enjoy great rates and fast approvals.
It's all about personalized service and a streamlined process.
Florida Credit Union, connecting your money to your life.
Real estate is the largest and most personal investment that any of us will ever make. Be sure to tune in Tuesdays at 10 a.m. when Bob Kennedy, owner of Berkshire Hathaway Home Team Realty, will be answering your questions and discussing real estate. So remember, that's Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Call 622-9622 with your questions. It pays to be an informed buyer or seller. This is news you can use from Berkshire Hathaway Home Team Realty and your friends here at WOCA.
Career Source, Citrus, Levy, Marion brings together business and community partners, economic development leaders, and educational providers to connect employers with qualified, skilled talent and job seekers with employment and career development opportunities. Tune in the first and third Wednesday of each month at 9:30 a.m. to Career Source, Citrus, Levy, Marion. and learn how they can help you.
Putting the local back into radio. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. WOCA News. Variety. Information. Now. Keep your arms and legs on the inside at all times.
The most trusted name in news, Fox News, every half hour, only on 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source.
WOCA. 25 minutes before 10 o'clock, let's return to Veterans News. Hank Whittier has left the studios, and Gary Pascal is sitting in for Hank, and of course Dr. Mark Knapp is here as well. And your phone calls are invited. The number is 622-9622.
Well, thank you very much. We're back. We're happy to answer any phone calls, any questions on the phone about any cancer at all. We're going to move on to prostate cancer, and I have Dr. Torres with me. We see lots of prostate cancer in the office in the age group of patients that we see, and I always tell my urologist that every couple of patients I see in the office have had prostate cancer or treated for prostate cancer. So, Dr. Torres, who in our population of veterans is at risk for getting prostate cancer?
Well, usually men's between 45 and 50, and it's been seen those men that are being exposed in the comeback zone to Agent Orange has been high incidence of prostate cancer, so they are screened closely.
That's right. Agent Orange is a risk factor. So if you've been in Vietnam, I know you've been exposed to Agent Orange, and we want to make sure we screen veterans who have been to Vietnam. What are some of the screening strategies we use to detect prostate cancer?
Well, we use two. One is through the rectal examination, which is the sensitivity is about 60% of it, and it's poor efficient because it has a lot of false positive for cancer. But the other test that we have is the PSA, and it's 80% of sensitive for cancer, and has less high false positive. So we just use a combination of it to determine and diagnose prostate cancer.
Yeah, we're kind of stuck with our strategies these days. We just don't have a better test than the PSA, and hopefully something better will be invented in the future. If your PSA is elevated, I call a lot of patients that have the upper limit of normal for a PSA is 4, but I call a lot of veterans on the phone who have PSAs of 5 or 6 or 7. What's it mean if your PSA is elevated? Does that necessarily mean you have cancer?
No, that could be related to different factors. One could be an inflammation of the prostate gland that can trigger the elevation of the PSA. Also, it could be an enlargement of the gland. The inflammation of the gland, like I said, is called prostatitis. So this could be related to either an inflammatory factor surrounding or an infection that the patient is going through.
Very good. And there's a lot of strategies for treating prostate cancer, and this has really evolved over the last couple years as we find that a lot of cancers are very indolent, especially in older men, and a lot of the treatments have a lot of side effects. So if a patient has localized prostate cancer, what are the different treatments that the VA would offer them?
Well, there's several treatments. One is surgery to removing the gland, and depending of how the location of the lesion, the cancer, the urologists determine and decide to remove the gland. Or there's another treatment called brachytherapy or radiation with seeds. They implant several seeds where the cancer is, and that will help to decrease the size of the gland and the tumor that is affecting the prostate.
I have a lot of patients that we use watchful waiting. What is watchful waiting?
Well, that's about life expectancy in regards the cancer, and we keep them tracking and under study, checking them.
So the theory is that a lot of prostate cancers are very indolent and will not spread. And in that regard, sometimes the urologist will follow that, and it's called watchful waiting. I have a number of patients that are in a study that they're doing watchful waiting with that.
Doctor, you have a phone call?
Great.
If you put your headphones on, you'll be able to hear the caller. Give a chance. Can everybody hear me? If you can, then you'll be able to hear the caller.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Good morning. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Yes, thank you. I had a relative in the family, brother-in-law, who had about 10 years ago had prostate cancer, and he had what they called external beam radiation. Is that still in effect? Is it useful or good?
Dr. Torres?
Yes, sir. That's still for good.
And actually, since we're here to tell you about your benefits and how the VA is supporting you, if you need external beam radiation, the VA actually provides radiation here locally. So they refer you locally, so you don't have to drive all the way to Gainesville. And I'll give you a statistic, about half the patients that I see with prostate cancer get external beam radiation, and about half get surgery, and a small percent get to watchful waiting. So external beam radiation is a well-accepted treatment for prostate cancer.
Is there ever both of them used?
Well, good question. Here's the way it plays out. If you go to surgery first for a localized prostate cancer, you have a very high chance of being cured. Down the line, if you have a recurrence in your PSA, indicating you may have recurrence either in lymph nodes or bone or some other place, then radiation is used following the surgery. If you go to radiation first and you have a recurrence many years down the road, then there's different treatments such as hormonal systemic therapy. So that's the way it plays out. The radiation would follow prostatectomy if you had a recurrence in the future.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
It's a very interesting question as to treatments, and as you know, the different treatments have different side effects as well.
Is there any prevention that people can take for this disease, doctor?
Well, good question. I've had prostate cancer, and if there was anything that was proven to prevent prostate cancer, I would be on a boatload of it. I will tell you one thing that we thought in the past. 10 years ago, we thought selenium and vitamin E were preventative therapies. And so I took those for 10 years, and many of you remember about 3 years ago on the nightly news, they had a vitamin E study, and they found out that men that took vitamin E had a 15% increase, not decreased, but increased risk of prostate cancer, which just goes to show that a lot of the therapies that we read about, we pull off the internet that are not tested, turn out not to be good. I went to my urologist recently, and he feels that some antioxidants and other things may help, but there's just no general recommendation.
And you have another phone call?
Oh, very good.
Wait for you to put your headsets on. Thank you for calling. Good morning. You're on the air. Thank you for calling and for waiting.
Good morning, everyone. Listen, I have a question. You were mentioning systemic hormonal therapy. What is that?
Well, good question. Systemic hormonal therapy usually is androgen deprivation. And what that means is it's hormones that actually decrease testosterone and male hormone. The theory is that prostate cancer grows in men because of male hormones. And if you actually give someone either by mouth or by injection, or at the VA clinic, what we use is a little pellet that you inject below your skin and your abdominal wall that decreases your male hormones. It would actually decrease your PSA in any growth of prostate cancer. It's actually pretty effective. And we give the pellet, usually is a 3-month pellet, and we give that usually for progressive prostate cancer that has failed either primary radiation or surgery.
Okay, so what is the pellet called, if you don't mind me asking?
Cece, do you know what the pellet's called? I forget.
Eligard.
Eligard? Oh, it's Eligard. Eligard. And it's put in by a little IV.
Injection.
And we do it right in the clinic.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Doctor, we're up against another break, so we've still got 15 minutes left in the show. If you want to call in, you are invited to do so. We'll be right back after this look at the weather and a couple of commercial announcements. The number to call if you want to be on the air is 622-9622, and Dr. Mark Knapp will answer your questions. 622-9622. We'll take that break right now and be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Mostly sunny today, windy and chilly with a high of 48 to 52. Clear and cold tonight with the wind diminishing, lows ranging from the mid-20s in some inland spots to about the freezing mark along the coast. Sunny tomorrow with a milder afternoon, high 53 to 57. For Saturday, sunshine, some clouds, and becoming warmer, the high 71 to 75. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Hello, gorgeous.
Hi, this is Becky at Hello Gorgeous Salon. We are located in the heart of downtown Ocala, right next to the historic Marion Theater. I'd like to invite you to stop by and see our new boutique area and meet our staff of professional stylists. Here at Hello Gorgeous, we are ready to update your look with the latest trends. It's the perfect time to brighten up your look, so make your appointment now for those highlights and Brazilian blowout. But don't stop there. We are a full-service salon offering manicures, pedicures, and facials also. So if you've been searching for a salon to call your own, come and see us at Hello Gorgeous Salon. We are located at 48 South Magnolia Avenue in downtown Ocala, right next to the Marion Theater. So call today and set up your appointment at Hello Gorgeous Salon at 351-5358. That's 351-5358. And don't forget, we also do men and children's cuts too. 351-5358.
Hello, gorgeous.
NASCAR fans, it's time to get charged up with New Holland. As the official agricultural equipment sponsor of NASCAR, New Holland is giving race fans the opportunity of a lifetime by offering the chance to win tickets to the Daytona 500. Visit your participating New Holland dealer to receive a free portable phone charger to keep you charged up on race day, a special equipment offer, and the chance to win tickets to the season opening race of the Daytona 500. To enter, visit Ocala Tractor on 5841 North Highway 441, February 20th from 3 to 5. Offer good while supplies last.
Don't get caught without your daily source of senior deals. Pick up your copy of the Senior Voice newspaper. It's your source for schedule and events tailored to seniors, with information you need, like a list of free events in the area. We even have Tom's Picks, a free referral for people who are looking for a company to do work for them. Tom's Picks will refer the company to you that fits your needs. And all we ask in return is that you tell them where you heard about them. For more information, call Tom's Picks, 352-804-1223. And pick up your copy of the Senior's Voice at most any business up and down the 200 corridor.
Now read Ocala Downtown newspaper online.
All right, 12 minutes left in the Veterans News program. Let's return now to Dr. Mark Knapp. And your phone calls are invited, 622-9622. Doctor?
Thank you. We love phone calls. We want to encourage all our veterans to listen and participate. And one of the philosophies of this radio program is, this is your clinic. This is your benefits. Let's move on to our women's health, and we made a lot of improvements in women's health. So let me move on to Cece. Cece, do we do women's health at the Cascades?
Yes, we do women's health in the clinic. We have 3 providers that performs women's health in our clinic.
Right. We have, for a small clinic, we only have 9 providers, and usually a clinic will have 1 women's health doctor. We have 3. So we really have tried to really beef up our program. And Dr. Torres, who's on the table here with us, he's had 4 years experience running a women's health clinic. So he has tremendous experience. So if you're a female veteran, we're up to about 6% of our veterans are female. We want to provide good women's health. How often should a woman get a pap and pelvic exam? What's the guidelines now, Cece?
The current recommendation is every 3 years for age 30 to 65.
Okay, and we do that at the clinic?
We do that at the clinic,
Great.
Yes, sir.
Great. What about mammograms? Are we doing mammograms?
Yes, we do order mammograms, and mammograms are being done locally, and it is recommended every 2 years.
I see. Very good. What about ultrasounds and things like that? Do we do that locally as well?
We fee-base them, and most of the time it's locally.
I see. Very good. We do, I think the imaging center's Advanced Imaging, and as you all know, they do a wonderful job, and we track our mammograms and things like that. And I think the last question I'm going to ask you is about human papillomavirus. We do a lot of vaccines at the clinic. Do we give that virus?
Yes, we do.
Vaccine?
We do give the vaccine in the clinic. It's available.
And what ages are we giving?
21 for the women.
Okay. Are we giving it to men too?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So actually, the VA leads the world in vaccines and vaccinations. And if you're a young person, male or female, we actually do give human papillomavirus, and it's free. So why would we give that virus? What does it prevent?
It prevents women from developing cervix cancer or cervical cancer.
Correct. So hopefully we will actually eradicate cervical cancer, or a large percentage of that, by giving the vaccine in the clinic. I want to move on to lung cancer. I'm a pulmonary doc. I was in practice for 20 years, and we give a monthly talk at the Ritz Hotel down the street. I'm going to talk on Monday on lung cancer and chronic obstructive lung disease. But we've started doing some pretty exciting things for lung cancer in the clinic. So let me ask about lung cancer and who's at risk for lung cancer. Well, let me tell you that about 70 to 80% of lung cancers are caused by cigarette smoking. About 20% are caused by other things. And what are those other things? Well, about a small percent is caused, several thousand a year, by passive smoking. As you all know, you're exposed to passive smoking usually in the past because a lot of people were heavy smokers. There's occupational risk factors, such as the shipbuilding business. And I was in the Navy many years ago, and I remember going down to the boiler room and getting hit in the head with asbestos snowballs, and you could peel that asbestos right off the pipes and everything else, and that's a risk factor for lung cancer as well. So most of it's cigarette smoking, some passive smoking, other occupational diseases. So we do have veterans with emphysema in the office, and we do pulmonary function testing and lung screening. Now, the most exciting thing that's happened in the last couple of years is there's a recommendation now from the federal government to do lung cancer screening. And I'll say up front that chest x-rays are not adequate for lung cancer screening. In the past, they've done those studies and shown that they're not sensitive enough to screen for lung cancer. So there is a recommendation out that if you're at risk for lung cancer, to do low-dose cancer screening, and we do that at the VA. So let me answer two questions. One, who qualifies for lung cancer screening? And two, let me talk about the CAT scans, because who wants to get a CAT scan with all that radiation? Right now, the recommendation by many societies is all over the place, but it's usually smokers between the ages of 55 and 74 or 80, depending on who you read, who have smoked at least 30 pack years. That means you smoked a pack a day for 30 years, smoked a pack and a half a day for, 25 years or so, and you've quit less than 15 years. So you would not qualify for screening if you quit more than 15 years ago. Number two, you haven't smoked 30 pack years, or you're outside the ages of 55 and above 80. So if you qualify in between, you actually are a candidate to talk to your doctor about getting lung cancer screening. Two caveats. Number one, it's not widely implemented yet through the country. And then secondly, the VA is in the middle of doing a huge study on lung cancer screening, and we do not have the results on that yet. So there has been a study in the community, but there's not been a VA study. But I do know that some of the doctors, including the three of us that are sitting at the table, in veterans that have high risk for lung cancer, are doing some screening. So the question is, let's say I'm a 60-year-old smoker. I've smoked a pack a day since I was in the military in Vietnam at age 20. And I've cut down to a half a pack a day. And I come to the clinic, and my doctor says, well, let's discuss lung cancer screening. What are my chances of having lung cancer with no symptoms? And the good news is it's very, very low. The bad news, it's present. And in the studies, I usually tell my veterans it's 1.5 percent out of 100. So what that means is you'd have a 98.5% chance of not having cancer, but a 1.5% chance of having a silent cancer that has no symptoms that you don't know about. And we've been doing some screening, and it pans out. It pans out around the different studies. It pans out in what I've been doing. It's about 1.5 times out of 100. Secondly, let me address another quick issue. We have a few more minutes. Who wants to get all the radiation of those CAT scans? Because I know a lot of you have read in the paper and have seen on the news that if you get a lot of needless CAT scans, all that radiation builds up. Well, we're doing what's called, quote, low-dose screening CAT scans. And a low-dose screening CAT scan has one-fifth the radiation dose of a regular CAT scan. So it's minimal radiation, it's screening, and the recommendation is that if you are a smoker, you actually get a CAT scan every year until you've quit smoking. And we try extremely hard in the clinic to try to get you to quit smoking.
How much does quitting reduce your risk of getting lung cancer?
Oh, it's dramatic. It actually does not decrease your risk for 10 to 15 years after you quit smoking, but it slowly goes down, and after 10 to 15 years, it starts going down substantially. It also decreases your chances of COPD, problems breathing, and actually a lot of our patients who have lung disease, when they quit smoking, tell me they're breathing much, much better, but it does take a while. Our patients with bad emphysema who continue to smoke, their lung function goes down pretty significantly every single year. When you quit, you don't make new lung, but you decrease the rapid decrease. So if you're heading towards oxygen and you can stop that decrease, it makes a big difference.
So if somebody has quit for 15 or 20 years, do the lungs actually heal?
You don't regenerate lungs. You don't have stem cells in your lung that regenerate lung. The big thing is you actually decrease the damage. So rather than heal, I like to say you decrease the damage, and you decrease it twofold. Number one is the decrement in your lung function, which causes you to be short of breath, decreases and it substantially. And then secondly, all those terrible changes from cigarette smoking start healing in the lung, so you stop injuring your lung. I want to tell you that for 20 years I did bronchoscopies where I took a little tube and looked into people's lungs. And individuals that smoke, Gary, look into their lungs, it looks like hamburger. It looks as red as Dr. Thompson's shirt. And our non-smokers, they look normal. There's not the inflammation. And it's the repeated inflammation that actually causes your increased chances of getting lung cancer. I did want to, let me hit one extra topic. Mesothelioma, because I see it advertised on TV every single night. Who's at risk for mesothelioma? It's a lung cancer, but it's a lung cancer related to asbestos. And since a lot of our veterans worked in the Navy, they worked in shipyards, we do see mesothelioma. It's very unusual. I haven't seen a case in the last 10 years, but in my prior practice, I saw 1 or 2 cases per year. And that is a cancer that involves the lung, the periphery of the lung, the outer coating of the lung, and it usually is related to individuals that have asbestos exposure or asbestos lung disease. So that's a tough one to treat.
Just about 2 minutes.
We have 2 minutes. Okay, very good. Let me ask another question here. Let me ask you, Gary, since you've been listening to this, we know that Hank had a colonoscopy 3 years ago. Have you had a colonoscopy in the last 10 years?
Yes, in 2011, I had the virtual, and it showed nothing. I had some stomach bleeding in 2013, and in 2014, I had a colonoscopy. Actually, it was in June. I had 7 polyps, and they removed them all, thank God. And thanks to my doctor over there at the Ocala Clinic.
Well, that's great. And those 7 polyps, by getting them out just with a colonoscopy, prevents those from growing, and then you'd have to have a full surgery and be in the hospital for several days.
Because then 3 of mine were precancerous. And again, I had the virtual, like I said, just a few years before that, and it showed nothing. So of the two, if I definitely had to, when I do have to go through it again in 5 years, but I'll definitely go for the regular one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they do give you anesthesia for a colonoscopy now and for prostate biopsy, so you're not laying there in pain.
No, and if they'd make that preparation taste a little bit better, that might be a good thing too.
Thank you, Doctor. We have run out of time, but thank you, Doctor, and thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Gary, and Hank, if you're listening, thank you.
My pleasure, and God bless America.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM.
News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The growing threat of violent extremism, the focus of a conference at the White House, now in its third day.
No one army, no one group is